Why is improving education so hard? As far as I can remember, there's always been the question of low income students do worse in schools than high income students or middle income students. Why is that? And I think the root of the question or the root of the problem really is that education starts at birth. So the second that a child is born, they begin to receive information, they begin to hear things, and that's when education really starts. So by the time somebody gets to first grade, they're already at a certain level in terms of processing, in terms of listening, in terms of speaking, because everyone has different experiences in the first 4 years, 4 or 5 years of their life. So recently, a lot of people have been advocating for universal preschool, which is kind of an attempt to kind of norm for those differences. If you're, 4 years old and the only language you've spoken or listened to is Spanish, then naturally you're going to be at a disadvantage when it comes to being in an American public school where the language is English. So, and also from a processing standpoint, hearing, speaking, interacting with people that speak English is going to be harder for you to pick up on things and learn things. And that's the root of the problem is that, well, another difference is that different parents read to their kids different amounts. Different students hear different amounts of vocabulary, different amounts of words, and that is already part of the puzzle when a child enters the first grade or kindergarten. And so then public education then is, the job is to take all the kids from all the different backgrounds and to kind of norm for that, right? Give them the reading, the writing, the math, the cognition, the skills to kind of develop as children. But when you have kind of segregated parts of society where you have a high income neighborhood that has their own school and you have a low income neighborhood that has their own school, naturally the high income neighborhood is going to have more access to resources, more access to tutors, more access to one-on-one instruction, more access to money because the money is there from the parents for their kids' education. The hard part in a low income public school is that the parents don't have money they don't have money to pay the tutor or to give to the school or to help organize different things. A lot of times they're struggling to make ends meet, working multiple jobs, having grandparents or family take care of kids while they're at work, while they're in the first 2-3 years. So we have this kind of segregation where low income school is going to be behind. Like there's no, like it's only natural, right? That if you're a low income school, you're just going to be academically behind. So what is the solution? I think a lot of people talk about, mixing and finding ways to mix different demographics. And I think it's a good idea. The problem with that is that a lot of people, let's say if you're a rich, let's just say middle class, at that, if you're a middle class parent, you're going to want the best education for your student, which means you're going to want to surround your kid with other like-minded parents that are trying to create and cultivate an environment of learning, of academic excellence, of pushing your kid to process and think and grow and have this level of cognition about the world around them. And when the truth is when you're at a lower income school, low income public neighborhood school, a lot of the parents don't have time to think about that, or they don't know enough about education, about public education to even be involved. I have so many parents of students that's just I just know to bring my kid to school, tell my kid to listen to their teachers, and that's the best I can do because I don't know anything else. So a big hurdle is actually education. How do we educate parents in the United States about raising a kid? Not even raising a kid, about helping your kid develop just cognition, reading, different levels. How do we help teach people that? Because I don't think anyone does it on purpose. Nobody wants their kid to be behind on purpose, but I think different parts of society just don't know. They don't have the knowledge of how much to read, what to feed. There's different levels of education about human development, and that's literally all the puzzle. That's the puzzle, is how do we solve that? How do we teach people? How do we educate the general public to alleviate some of these enormous gaps that kids have by the time they're 4 or 5 years old. You have kids that can read on a third, fourth, fifth grade level, and kids that are still figuring out how to make sound. So it's like, it's nobody's fault. It's just we're humans. We teach what we know. And if you grew up knowing education, if your parents knew what they knew, kind of how education worked, they knew how to read to you, how to teach you, how to be kind of patient with you too, like, then naturally you learn that, and with your kids you teach that. If you grow up in a large household with lots of people, there's a lot of people in the building, parents working multiple jobs, trying to make ends meet. You kind of, people are just kind of trying to survive, feeding like students or feeding the children. Like, that's what you learn and that's what you teach, right? So it's really hard to break the cycle. But I think if public education is going to, be a solution to that kind of gap in education, like, we have to find a way to teach the general public, teach low-income communities about the education system, about, developing like children, and also find ways to like bridge the gap, right? We're moving towards a global society faster and faster every day with technology, the internet, AI, like everything is becoming so interweaved, woven. It's all becoming we're a global society now. And the only way to have a better future generation is to prepare our children to know how to interact with people of different beliefs, people that grew up differently, people that think differently, people that were raised differently. Like, how do you interact with someone that was raised differently than you and maybe has different beliefs than you and has different values than you? How do we work together to find a middle ground? How do we work together to find progress, right? And I think has to be part of the solution. We have to find a way to incorporate every part of society and have levels of interactions with each other. Otherwise, the same society that created segregation is the same society that's going to have economic inequality 10, 20 years from now, right? Especially with how much capitalism, is driving the American economy, right? The richest people in the world are getting richer by crazy margins, right? If you have money, you know how to use it, you're going to make way more money than someone trying to make ends meet, someone that's trying to work multiple jobs, figure out life after high school, when all they were really taught was, go work, come back, feed your family. Like, you're not taught how to invest. You're not taught how to spend your money. You're not taught how to budget and save different percentages for different things, right? Those are all things you have to learn. No one there are very few people that can figure that out for themselves, but as a general public, we have to teach each other. Like, so if I think, I'm really passionate about kind of helping education be the forefront for teaching humans how to interact with each other in a global kind of atmosphere that we have now. So I guess to summarize, public education has always been hard to change because different students show up on day one at different levels, and that's a result of different ways that they were raised. And there's nothing inherently wrong about that. It's just, how do we help bridge the gap? How do we keep pushing students to reach academic excellence while also like catching up kids that might be behind for whatever reason, right? There's kids coming, migrating, moving neighborhoods, moving schools. There's so many different kinds of stories out there. And public education, it's tasked with trying to fix all that, with trying to take everything in one room and now, all right, boom, you're the teacher, make it happen, right? And it's literally so hard, like so hard. It's hard to do in a school where everyone's kind of similar, right? I can't imagine what it's like to do in a school that's has different kinds of more diverse, right? More diversity. So those are my thoughts for today. Like, that's something that's always been on my mind. Is education is something everyone cares about, but for some reason it's always the same problems. I think fundamentally speaking, we have to bridge the gap from birth. Like, you have to find a way to teach people how to read and how to help kids process. Maybe like universal pre-K is a great idea, but how can we maybe even take it a step further, right? Daycare, 3-year-old and like 2-year-old, like it starts at birth, and like there has to be a way to use, the public education system to help alleviate that. Because that's why I'm in education, is to alleviate the gap, right? I think we can still push the top performers, the top whatever, to keep reaching for the Ivies, keep reaching for the, the best education there exists, but the gap can't be getting bigger, right? The last 5 years, it's been getting bigger. The gap cannot be getting bigger. It has to be getting smaller. So how can we fight that? How can we bridge the gap and bring everyone in our society, everyone in our community to reach levels of success, levels of academic, prowess, I guess, academic, just familiarity, levels of academic success that we haven't seen in the past. So let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm for all things education, figuring out how to, make the next generation better than the one before. So that's it for now. Catch you next time.